Okay, we're going. Hi, everybody. I'm Alice Steinglass. I worked on the new tutorials for Hour of Code this year, the Star Wars one and the Minecraft one. Hold on, we're getting free here. Okay. We're now off the air. Okay, sorry about that. We now have got our technology working here. So I run our product and engineering teams here and marketing, and this is Hadi. He's our founder and started the Hour of Code, and we're here to answer any of your questions about running the Hour of Code with your classroom.
But before we go into questions, I should just say how exciting it is to be 1 week away from the 3rd annual Hour of Code for Computer Science Education Week. When we started this thing, it started out as just a simple idea of what if we could get teachers to do 1 hour of computer science. And back in June of 2013, so 2.5 years ago, we set this ridiculous goal of let's try to get 10 million kids to try to do this in 1 week. We figured if we shoot for 10 million, maybe we'll reach 1 million. And hopefully that'll be great. And that first week we reached, I think, 15 million students in the very first week. And then last year's Hour of Code was literally twice as large. This year it looks like it's going to be 3 or 4 times as large just based on the number of people who signed up saying they want to do it. And this has become such a worldwide affair. We've heard that the country of Malta has told us they want the entire country doing the Hour of Code. The island of Cocos Island in the Indian Ocean is going to have all of their 650 inhabitants do the Hour of Code. The ministries of education of Italy and Russia have said that they're going to ask every single school in the entire country to do the Hour of Code. In Russia, it's particularly interesting because they refuse to do anything to do with Code.org because we're a U.S. organization, and Russia and U.S. are kind of in a tough spot right now, so they won't talk to us, but they're going to do it for every single school in the country, which will reach at least 10 million students. And then in places like in Nigeria, we hear about where the bombs and the violence have been. They're doing an Hour of Code. In Syria, there's, right around all the sort of issues in the civil war that's going on, people are participating. In one Middle Eastern country that refuses to let us identify them, there's a girl-centric, girls' Hour of Code, much like there are in, Western countries. But in this country, we can't promote it because they're worried about a government sort of retribution to the girls that are coding, which is just insane, but still kind of awesome that that's happening. And then, of course, in the United States, if you look at the map of the schools participating, I think we've kind of broken the map. I think as more people register, it can't even handle the number of things they're trying to put on.
One of our top support questions is people asking us why they added you signed up, you added your thing to the map. We know you did, and it's not showing up on the map.
It's because there's too many people doing it.
There's too many people signed up. Our map is not handling it.
And the Hour of Code is not about how much you can learn in an hour. It's about realizing after 1 hour that this is an important field, that every kid can try it, can enjoy it, and that every school, every teacher can host this in their classroom, and that computer science really is a field for everybody, not just for the special geniuses, not just for the 18-year-olds. And in the last 2 years, we've seen 90 different school districts in all of the largest cities in the United States adopt computer science for full-on curriculum. Multiple states have done statewide things, and multiple countries have done countrywide requirements of computer science being taught as a formal part of the curriculum. Our real goal with the Hour of Code is to get full computer science courses put into schools. The Hour of Code is just the initial start. But anyway, it's been an amazing thing, and we can't wait for next week. So
it's a great way to break stereotypes. I think there are plenty of people out there who think that coding is scary, or it's something that happens inside your computer, you can't touch it, and would never enroll in a computer science class. And we've talked to a lot of students who do the Hour of Code, and it just helps them realize that it is fun, and it is something that they can do, and then go on to, I just spoke actually to a 14-year-old girl who was telling me she tried her Hour of Code. She went a little early. We haven't started yet, but she already did the Hour of Code this year. She did the Star Wars one, and she's signing up for her computer science class for school next year in high school. And she's never taken any computer science, and she wasn't going to, but she thought it was kind of fun, and now she's going to try it out, and that's just a great opportunity. So thank you, everybody who's on the call, because you're all, I know, organizing the Hour of Code. That's why you're calling in, and you're giving your kids an incredible opportunity. So I want to help you out with that. It looks like one of the questions that we're being asked is from a principal who wants the entire school to participate in the Hour of Code. And she's looking for some suggestions to organize an event for the whole school. Hadi, do you have thoughts on good ways to get your whole school doing it?
There's a couple things we would say. One is if you go to the Hour of Code website, there's sort of under the resources on the left-hand side, it shows sort of a how-to sort of event guides. And there actually is a sort of guides for how to organize at least a school assembly for that kind of an event, like the run of show for what the school assembly should be. But then there's a separate question of how do you logistically get every child in a school to do 1 hour of code if you don't have enough computers. And we actually, the section, we've stopped giving the sort of prizes for whole schools that do this, but actually the section that talks about that, we've actually put draft plans for how a whole school could do 1 hour of code. I don't know if it's possible to dump that into this chat window. Right.
I think as you're pointing out, for most schools, you don't have computers for everybody doing it all at once, and that's totally fine. It's awesome to bring the school in for an assembly around the concept of computer science or what computer science is. We've got a bunch of inspirational videos on the website that are a great way to kick that off. And whether you do that in a big assembly or you do that in individual classes, the videos, I played them with everything from second graders to actually first graders up through high school. And they're really fun for all ages. And there's some great videos on there, and it just gets people excited and shows, maybe you don't know what computer science is, so it's hard for you to answer the question about what is computer science or what I do with computer science. The video is a good way to show that. And we've also got a really diverse set of role models in those videos. So, students can see themselves and say, oh, people who look like me or people who are doing fun things and doing exciting things with computer science. That's a great way to start it out.
Yeah, and for the logistics of getting the whole school through it, whether that means moving the laptop carts from classroom to classroom or whether that means having the kids go in through the computer lab, either of those are the best ways to do it. And for a school that doesn't have laptop carts or doesn't have a computer lab, there's other strategies. One is, frankly, to do the unplugged tutorials. All you need is a bunch of paper cups and paper to do the easiest unplugged tutorials. Or if you have some devices, you can have kids pair programming side by side. You can have a teacher working on a smart screen and just having the teacher themselves do the coding and asking kids to, with a show of hands, say, what should I do next, and let the kids suggest. And then also many of the tutorials that we highlight are designed for smartphones and tablets. So, older age kids in high schools, they have their own smartphones, and if they just download the apps to their smartphones, all of these apps, we press the ones that we promote to be free apps, so you don't need to pay for them. So all of those are different ways for a school that doesn't have enough devices to do it.
Actually, you said one thing there, which is pair programming, which is really cool and worth taking a moment to talk about, because it's not just a concept for classrooms. People actually do it in computer science as well, in the workforce, that you'll have two people working on a computer together to program. And in classrooms, especially for an hour of code, an intro hour of code, it can be really fun to have two students working together because they can talk to each other, they have somebody to support them. It's a collaborative effort, and it can be a lot of fun too in your classroom. Whether or not you have enough computers for every student, you should think about whether your class would have more fun if they had a couple people working together at each computer. I see another question that follows on sort of similar to the whole school thing, and this is something we hear a lot, which is you have a bunch of different grade levels, and how do you register the different grade levels to get a variety of code experiences? So how do you find the right tutorial, the right level of coding for all the different grade levels at your school?
Sure. This depends on what the kids' experience is. First of all, beginners at coding, it doesn't matter what age they are. If you're doing it for the first time, whether you're 30 years old or 4 years old, you kind of want to start with the basics. So, and most of the tutorials that Code.org provides are designed really to be for all ages. And really, at the beginner level, the only sort of special age is pre-readers, kids that can't actually read. You want to use one of the tutorials that's designed for that age group. So, for example, Lightbot or Boxy Island are two iPhone apps that are
the Foos is great.
Or the Foos that are designed for those.
And those are all labeled. Last time we did a Q&A, we got tons of questions from people asking about kindergartners and pre-readers, so I know there's probably a bunch of you on there. If you are looking for pre-readers, if you go to code.org/learn and you look down on the page, there's a section there for that's labeled for beginners for kindergarten through grade 8. And if you go in there, if you flip through them, it'll be labeled. Some of them are labeled for pre-readers. Those are great if you have kindergartners who can't read yet, or even late preschool.
Yeah, but for the kids who can read, any age can start with the Minecraft tutorial. It's a fantastic one. And if they're already experienced, it's not about age, it's about experience. If they've already done enough drag and drop coding that they want to move to JavaScript, our own Star Wars tutorial lets you switch to JavaScript mode, or the Khan Academy tutorial, or any of the other ones that teach JavaScript are sort of the next thing to go through. We've tried to categorize and present many of them on the Code.org website, and there's actually many websites now. If you just Google Hour of Code tutorials, there's actual websites that can help you find and search different and choose the best ones. There's a question, do you know the people in Scratch? Yes, we know the people in Scratch. We're not working together with them. Scratch is its own tool, and Code.org built its own programming platform. And Scratch has built a tablet version of Scratch Junior, which is designed for elementary schools, but it only works on iPads, not on Android tablets, and it's only for Scratch Junior, so it's not the full Scratch. There's a company called Tinker that makes a product that's very much like Scratch, and it's a for-profit company, not a non-profit. So some of the versions of what they do you need to pay for, but the basic entry level is free. And they have kind of a mobile version of all the types of things you could do in Scratch.
I see a question down here about what happens if you haven't heard back from a volunteer yet.
Oh, if you haven't heard back from a volunteer. So we've also, the volunteer system is new this year, and we heard from you guys for the last couple of years that people really wanted volunteers to come into the classroom to just help. Again, if you don't do computer science, if you're not closely connected to it, it could be great to bring somebody from industry and just to see what does a computer programmer do, what are they doing, to inspire the kids, let them talk to someone, let them ask their questions. And so this year we asked you guys if you wanted to volunteer, and we saw that there were lots and lots of people saying yes. 20,000 teachers say that they wanted to volunteer. So we went out to lots of industries and universities and asked people to volunteer. And we've got about 10,000 volunteers who are happy to come into one or more classrooms. But it's up to you to go reach out to them. And we don't want to give them your email address. We haven't given them any information about you or your school or any way to contact you. So the only way they can contact you is if you go to the site and you find a volunteer near you. We recommend asking 3 of them. We have not done any vetting of them. I've talked to a bunch who are excited to come in and help and happy to volunteer in the classroom, but we have not done vetting. Some of them may be irresponsible and not write back. We have not done any background checks on them, so it's up to you to do whatever your school does for background checks. If it's easier, with only a few days left between now and Hour of Code, to not go through that process and just have them Skype into the classroom, that's also possible. If you contact a volunteer and they have not gotten back to you, definitely go contact another 1 or 2 or 3. I'd recommend contacting 3 because that increases the chance they get back to you.
In general, we've had 20,000 teachers tell us they want volunteers. We have about 8 or 9,000 volunteers signed up. Yeah. But not even all 8,000 have even been contacted to begin with, which means that over half the teachers who wanted to volunteer in the classroom haven't actually spent the time to try to reach out. So if you're interested in having somebody come inspire your kids or just help out, please take advantage of the tool to reach out to them.
Yeah, and definitely, I know that our volunteers are somewhat concentrated in sort of the tech areas. So, we have a lot of volunteers in San Francisco, we have a lot of volunteers in Seattle, and places where there are a lot of tech companies. We might have fewer in other places, but definitely a lot of volunteers were excited about doing a Skype or a remote call, a Google Hangout into your classroom. So if you're interested in that, you should just reach out to them anywhere in the world and see if you can find somebody who would want to do that with you.
There's a question about should I assign a particular program for my students to work on in order to monitor their progress? That's first of all up to you, although we've tried to make sure that none of the tutorials for an Hour of Code require student sign up. So our own tutorials, you can go through a student sign up process and a teacher sign up process and then assign the tutorial to the students, and then you get a dashboard to see their progress. But that's a lot of effort for just one class. That's the type of effort you want to do if you're going to teach this for 10 or 15 hours worth of multiple classes. For just the first hour, it's a little bit easier to just say, hey, everybody go to this link and give it a shot and monitor their progress by walking around the classroom. That also has the benefit of letting some kids, if they go through it faster, jump and try something else. And that generally works a little bit better for the single hour kind of activity.
We also, on all of our tutorials, we wanted to make it easy for you just to see what's going on as you walk around the classroom. So right at the top of the screen, there's a little bar that shows you their progress and how far along they are. So you can see, just sort of glancing over their shoulders, you know, who might be getting stuck or who's behind or where they are. So that's, you know, definitely I just recommend just letting them go for it, and you can see it, you know, you can look around the classroom. The goal is really just to have fun. They're not designed that they have to finish it in an hour. And it's great if a student does, you know, if there's a 20 puzzle progression and they do 7 of those puzzles, that's fantastic. There's no, you know, you need to finish it in order to do your hour of code. Some of them are designed so that, you know, if you're a high school student, it might take the whole time, and a younger student might have more time to get through it. If somebody's had experience coding, they might get through it faster. And then we have sort of play areas at the end where they can keep playing and doing more if they get through it. Will you or your website showcase any schools or classrooms that participate? Yes, we always, you know, we tweet. We're trying to put together a page this year, just a bunch of showcases. So if you are doing the Hour of Code, if you can share pictures, share tweets, share anything you want on social media and tag Hour of Code, we would love to see it, and we would love to share those more broadly with other people who are doing it. So yeah, tag Hour of Code. That would be great. And let's see, when will...
I have a depressing answer to Marangeli Torres's question, which is when will we receive the posters? Which is, we under budgeted, or actually under expected, how many teachers would sign up and ask for posters, so we've actually ran out of them and can't print them in time. So unfortunately, the first, I think, 20 or something thousand people who asked for posters will get them, and there's at least 10,000 people who've asked for posters who won't. And this is partly because from a budgeting standpoint, but it's literally we needed to print them in advance and guess how many we'd need, and we tried to guess more than we'd need, and we fell short. So if you haven't received posters yet, they're not coming, unfortunately. There's enough demand that we're going to come up with a way to basically make them available afterwards, but I have to apologize that they're not available.
Yeah, we've had 3 times as many people sign up to organize the Hour of Code as we had last year, and are close to 3 times as many, and that's
we aimed for 50% growth, and we are having tripling of everything, which is a little bit hard to deal with.
So thank you for doing it. We'll try to keep up. So did you have another one?
I think that's a good question about community events.
Sorry, as people are entering them, they're moving, so I'm trying to read it. How to get participants to promote the event if it is going to be a community event. How do you want to?
Sure. So if something is going to be a community event, you know, first of all, we recommend using your own local sort of avenues for doing that kind of stuff. If you look at the Hour of Code website, there's actually a number of resources specifically for promoting, whether it's the logo, banners, or things to put on web pages, suggested tweets, suggested social media. You know, the map we have on our website, both the CS Ed Week website and the Hour of Code website, gets a lot of visitors, but it doesn't get a lot of visitors among parents. It gets visitors among teachers. And most parents, I don't think, are actually proactively going somewhere to figure out where their kids can do an Hour of Code. So local PTA type things, or places where parents would actually hear you, is how I would look at spreading the word.
Oh, easy question here from an IT administrator. They're asking how they can make sure that the tutorials work. And that's something I recommend everybody just try before they start their Hour of Code. From your school, just because the school might have certain websites that are whitelisted or not whitelisted, try from the device that you're going to be using, go into the tutorial and playing through it, and just double check to make sure it works. If you're using one of the Code.org tutorials, we have a IT requirements site which tells you what to whitelist. Basically, it's you know, Code.org and studio.code.org.
Star.code, anything.code.org.
Code.org, and makes it easy. But if you're, and then, you know, optionally you can also do YouTube, but even just Code.org will work.
You don't need YouTube.
You don't need YouTube, so Code.org. If you're using one of the other tutorials, I don't know what your site has whitelisted or what you need to whitelist to do that tutorial. It probably depends on the tutorial. So just try it try it out before you get started. That's a great thing to do. Just check out and make sure the tutorial works. That's also a good way to check to make sure the device you're going to be using. So if you're using iPads or tablets or computers, you just want to try the tutorial on the device you're using to make sure it's going to work well for that device.
There's a question from Luann saying, or Luann, saying, since my class already spent time last week, does it count? Of course it counts. The point for the hour of code isn't that everybody has to do it during the same week. In fact, there's millions of people that are already starting right now, and there will be millions of people that'll go 1 week late because of final exams or things like that. We count participation in this literally year-round, but next week is basically the big week when tens of millions of students worldwide are going to be participating, which is what makes it exciting. I think there's actually a pretty good chance that we reach 100 million students in 1 week. We'll see. It'll be exciting.
So this will be our third hour of code event. We are trying to turn it into a year-long activity with competition as the motivation. How can we carry this over? How can we carry this over year to year and allow the students to keep their progress? Our school site admin for monitoring progress.
Can you talk about a teacher dashboard?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think if you're doing
yeah, that depends on whether you're using the Code.org tutorials or picking your own. If you use the Code.org tutorials, the 3 tutorial platforms that we recommend that I know of that do monitor student progress are the Code.orgs, Tinkers, and Khan Academies. I believe also Code.HS and Code Academy at the high school level do as well. So if you use any of those 5 tutorial providers, you can actually set up teacher accounts, student accounts, and even if you use them for 1 hour a year, you can get that progress year over year, and the student accounts stay the same. But if you're doing it as a year-long thing, I would highly recommend getting student logins and the teacher logins for any of those systems. So the ones that I mentioned were Code.org, Tinker, Khan Academy, Code Academy, and Code.HS all have student progress dashboards.
And I think another piece to that is if you're going to be, there's sort of, I couldn't really tell, there were 2 different questions there. One is to do, hour of code this year and hour of code next year and continue to make it a thing that builds. The other is, beyond the hour of code, the kids have fun. I want to keep going. I want to, do more computer science, or I want to bring this out into the school year. And if you go to code.org /learn is where all the tutorials are, /learn beyond, we have a list of all sorts of things you can do that go beyond the hour of code. So, we have tutorials at code.org, 20-hour courses that you can work in through grades K through 8, and there are lots of other great options out there like Khan Academy, Code.HS, Tinker, Code Academy that will let your kids keep going throughout the year.
All right. There's a question about the Code.org website crashing next week due to so much activity. We had hiccups on the site last year. First, I'll be first to apologize for last year. We had 1.5 days of extremely poor site downtime during the hour of code, and I'll take the personal blame for that. This year, I'm quite sure it won't happen for multiple reasons. Basically, because of last year's experience, the issue of last year was basically if one part of our site couldn't hold up, it would take the whole site down. And the parts of our site that end up taking the most effort to run from a database standpoint are things that involve things like student logins. And what we're doing this year is making it so we can shut off individual subparts of the Code.org site while the actual core hour of code 1 hour sequence literally barely needs to hit our computers. So if things go awry, because we really can't predict how much the traffic will be, we can gradually shut off all the rest of our site except the part that everybody wants to stay up, just to make sure that that part stays up. I would not worry about it.
We have a question here about, oh my gosh. A question here about swag, which I just put in our showcase links. So we have a blog post on the Code.org blog that will step you through ordering customized hour of code t-shirts.
Is that on blog.code.org?
It's on blog.code.org, and I linked to it directly in the links for this chat.
Yeah, so Nadia, if you want to order customized t-shirts, or for anybody else who's not familiar with that, we have a t-shirt template that basically has an hour of code logo, and there's I think 2 different templates where you can enter your school name and order a t-shirt. It's an order from customink.com, so we're not the ones creating the t-shirts, but we've made the template available on Custom Ink, and anybody can change the template to make your own t-shirts and order them from Custom Ink. And at blog.code.org is the place to find the link for that.
So This one is, my students have created their accounts and have been doing the tutorials and they are hooked. What will they do on the day we do Hour of Code in class? Well, that's easy. There's no way they did all the tutorials. There are over 20 tutorials, well, just different brands. And then there's with each of them, I mean, Tinker has 5 different tutorials you could do, and everybody's got lots of tutorials up there. So there's no way you're going to run out of tutorials during Hour of Code. But if you're, another common question we get is, my students did it last year and they're coming back, and we just want to know what I should do this year, because I've got some students who are in my class or weren't in my class. I don't know what they've done. So 2 at the very top that we've got are brand new this year are the Star Wars and Minecraft ones. So if your students did do Hour of Code last year, they have not done those unless you signed them up last week and they already have their accounts, in which case they might have done those. And then I would just let your kids, I mean, if your kids have had experience and they've done it before and you've got different kids who've done different things, one option is just to let everybody do their own thing. All of the tutorials are self-guided, and you can let the students try different tutorials and let them sort of explore and have fun, especially if they're experienced and they've tried this before. They might have a lot of fun with that.
There's a question from Christy about, do you think, will you be able to do Code a Tree this year? That was last year a special promotion with the White House to actually write code to basically light up the White House Christmas lights. And basically in connection with the, they briefly did an actual event with the Christmas lights and then made a sort of coding project around that. But because the White House isn't participating in that particular thing this year, I don't believe that's available anymore. But the group that made that out of Google, called Made with Code, is coming out with a new tutorial this year that should be pretty fun.
I don't see where students can create an account. Okay, so if you're looking for your students to create an account, again, you don't need to create an account.
Actually, it would be better not to bother creating accounts. It is less work for you.
It's less work for you, and you don't have to manage it. You don't have to deal with it. The kids don't need to log in. Our recommendation is don't have the students create accounts. If you do want to create an account, the reason to do that would be because you're planning on teaching more than just the Hour of Code. So if you want to do the Hour of Code and you want to keep going and you want to maybe do one of the 20-hour courses, that's where it makes sense to create an account. And with young kids, I'd actually start not by having your students go create their own account, but start by creating your account on the teacher dashboard. And then the very first link there is to set up your classroom. And you can set up a classroom for your students and give them all logins, which are either picture passwords or words that you just give them to write down. And that way, if they forget it, you can always give them a new word or a new picture password, and you're in charge of it, and they're all part of your classroom, and you can manage the whole thing. Yeah. But again, just don't bother for
the Hour of Code. We've actually pressed every tutorial provider to remove their sign-up requirements so that your kids can just click a link and start coding, do it for one class and be done, and go home and not need to worry about that stuff. For the ongoing courses, on our site, if you look at Code Studio, the URL is studio.code.org. There's a wealth of courses. There's about 8 or 9 different 1-hour courses, but about 100 hours worth of ongoing curriculum, which will take weeks and weeks to go through depending on what age range you're in. And for those, if you go to studio.code.org, the teacher dashboard setup and the student account setup are all the ways to do that. I'm going to repeat for the posters because that's come up enough times. I just want to apologize for the teachers who ordered posters and didn't receive them. We ran out and we just basically didn't print enough. We expected to have almost double, 50 to 60% more participants than last year, and we've had 300% more participants than last year, so we grossly underestimated how many posters to print, and I'm sorry. You can, by the way, somebody had mentioned up here, you can print your own posters if you have a printer. All the PDF files for our posters are exactly available, and we will soon make available a link to purchase posters, but we're not sure those will be deliverable in the time you need them for next week.
So Lee has a question. Oh,
sorry.
Lee's question. Yeah, so Lee just had a question about whether or not his students needed to create accounts if they were going to do the ongoing courses. And you can use the ongoing courses without accounts, but you would want to create accounts if your students are going to be doing the ongoing courses, because it would let you see what's going on in the classroom, let you manage the classroom, it lets you see the progress of your students on the different courses. So yes, if you want to sign up to do longer, the 100 hours he was talking about, then yeah, go ahead and do create accounts for yourself and then for your students.
There's a question from Luann saying if students use My Classroom in Code Studio and they have a personal account, do the lines of code combine? The answer is only if the student's account actually is part of your classroom. If their own personal account is separate from your classroom, they don't combine. But if a student has their own separate account, they can add you as their teacher, so you don't need to have two separate accounts for the same student. And there's actually user interface for a student to effectively invite a teacher to join that teacher's classroom. That said, I would kind of not worry about the total lines of code. It's just kind of a fun counter, but it's not the most important thing. Although for the students who care about it, I guess it must be important.
Take that.
The question is, are there any learning tutorials for object-oriented programming like C++ or Java? If you look in our other programming languages tutorials, I believe there are a number of these. And I can't think of one directly off the top of my head, but I would say that object-oriented programming isn't necessarily the first way to start if you're going to introduce somebody to just 1 hour of coding. If these are kids who already have done computer science and have done basic coding and want to learn object-oriented programming, then I would look at the frankly regular curriculum for computer science for doing that, not just 1 hour courses. And there's many options for that if you look at our Learn Beyond page to find options for that. The question is, can a student use basically Google sign-on on a Chromebook instead of Code.org to sign up? We first, for the hour of code, suggest not to even bother creating a sign-up. They're really for 1 hour of activity. It's not essential. That said, Code.org sign-up does support Google accounts, and I'm not sure if that automatically works with the single sign-on on Chromebooks. But if you log in with a Google account works, I believe it should just automatically let you log in if you say create an account using your Google account.
So we have a question here about whether a student account can be attached to multiple teachers. So if you have a special teacher and a homeroom teacher. And again, don't bother for the hour of code to create accounts, don't bother to attach them to teachers, but this is probably from somebody who's actually doing the longer courses and doing that on Code Studio. You can do it today. I think it's a frequently asked. It's kind of complicated how you get them into, depending on what you're trying to do.
The answer is yes, but it's not super easy.
It's not super easy.
The students need to individually add the teacher, the second teacher as a teacher on their account.
Yeah, we are trying to right now, because we've gotten a bunch of requests for that. We're working on a feature to make that a little easier, so you can put multiple teachers on there. But if the two teachers are in two different courses, just have them put in the course codes for both of the two different classes they're in individually from the student's account, and then you'll be in both classes. I have classes for students. Another course like Minecraft them to complete when they're done. Okay, so here's somebody who did set up their class and built a class and put all the students in it. And again, you don't have to do that. But if you do it, and she assigned Frozen. So Christy assigned Frozen as the tutorial they're all going to do. And that'll work great if some of them finish and they're ready to go on. They can go ahead and click on any of the other tutorials without you bothering to assign them to your class. So even if you haven't assigned Minecraft to your class to do, what I would do is just write on the board for everybody, code.org/MC, and tell the students when they're done, they can just go to that URL and do it. Or if they go back to the homepage on Code Studio or when they're done, it will, like when they get to the end, there will be a certificate and it says more courses. If they click there, you'll see Minecraft right there, and you can just tell them to go ahead and do Minecraft. And there's no reason you need to assign that to your class.
The other recommendation I'd have, whether it's for Christy or anybody else, you'll always have kids who finish faster. One option is to have them jump to another tutorial. Another option is to have them go around and help other kids. That'll make your own life as a teacher slightly easier. There's inevitably one or two kids who've already done this stuff and they know it all. And for them to help the other kids is actually a different form of learning for everybody, and it makes for a more sort of engaging kind of classroom experience.
Oh, and we got an answer. Yes, Chromebooks work with my Google account. My students tried today. So thank you. Glad to hear it worked out great for you. So yes, the answer is yes.
So a question about
Oh.
unplugged activities.
So somebody has 300 students and they do not have great internet. So actually, if you don't have great internet, there are two options. One is to do an unplugged activity. The other, if you have computers but no internet, is to do one of the activities where you can download it in advance to the computers. And they're in the unplugged section. If you go through it, you'll see some Blockly tutorials. And we're going to see if before the Hour of Code Monday, hopefully we can get up some more unplugged tutorials. We're working on it right now that you can download in advance. But also, the unplugged tutorials are great. They're especially great. They're really great with all ages.
Well, there's two types. Unplugged means without even a computer. Offline means with a computer, but it's not connected to the internet.
We actually call them both unplugged on our website right now.
But they're a little bit. They're both
Yes.
under the same section for
They're both
basically.
the same
They're
section,
called
yeah.
unplugged and offline.
Yeah.
But the unplugged tutorials Alice is talking about feel like coding, but they don't involve a computer. It'll involve one student giving instructions, and the other student acts like the computer to act out those instructions.
Yeah.
And it gives you the same sort of experience of coding and problem solving without the excitement of the computer reacting, and without the fun of Star Wars or Minecraft or Angry Birds.
You make it sound unfun. It is actually quite fun in a classroom because the kids are interacting, they're building things, they're stacking cups. So you can totally do it. If you have 300 students doing it, it's great if you could break them out into smaller groups. And a lot of the activities, you can go pick one that'll work well for your students and their age range. But a lot of the activities you do with partners or with pairs or with a small group. And so you can break them out and have them do that activity together. I've done it with classrooms and it's been a blast, especially with, little kids love to run around. So depending on how old they are, it can be great. Yeah.
For the school that asked with 300 students, by the way, if you have bad internet, you don't necessarily need fast internet for 25 or 30 kids simultaneously to be doing the Hour of Code. The only part that is on our tutorials that is sort of expensive on the internet is the videos, and those can be played on a smart board, have all the kids in the room see that once, and then have them just do the coding without the videos. And the actual individual levels for 25 kids at once won't be that difficult. But hopefully we'll have offline versions of the tutorials available by Monday, and if not, the unplugged tutorials will work as well.
Yeah. So we have a request for Google Classroom integration in the future. Yeah, Google Classroom is awesome. We don't currently integrate with it. We are looking at that. So thank you for the request. If you guys have any other requests, there's a feedback link in our on the site, and we'd love to hear the things that you guys are looking for us to add to the site. So thank you for the feature request.
I don't understand Kimberly's question completely.
Do you think the hour pack more bang if we get a volunteer, or do you have a cool video intro?
Oh.
Yeah. So I think, I think you should definitely do the video intro whether or not you get a volunteer. I think it's just a great way to start it off with the classroom. It's fun. And it's super short, so it's not a long video. All the videos are designed to be somewhere between, I think our short one is about 90 seconds.
The shortest one is 60 seconds.
60 seconds. So 60 seconds. We've got up to 10 minutes, but somewhere in the 60, depending on how old the kids are, 60 seconds, 2 minutes, 3 minutes is a good.
If you don't know where the
amount of time.
Intro videos are, if you try either the Minecraft tutorial or the Star Wars tutorial, they show a bunch of inspirational videos. And there's multiple links throughout our website for how to find them. There's 6 of them. Any of them are fantastic. And whether you have a volunteer or not, I would definitely use that.
Yeah.
The reason to get a volunteer is if you want somebody else helping in the classroom who, first of all, is another hand, frankly, and who has some tech familiarity and knows a little bit about coding. And then if you have that person, then they can also talk more about what they do at a personal level in their job and what nearby tech industry jobs are like. And students may not be able to connect that what they're doing here for 1 hour connects to a career, and that's the reason to get a volunteer to talk.
And for the volunteer talking, I think most of the fun for Hour of Code is actually doing the activities. So you don't want your volunteer talking for 45 minutes at the front of the room. So what I would do is kick it off, play the video, introduce the volunteer, let the students do the activity, save 5 to 10 minutes at the end for them to ask questions of the volunteer. Now that they've done a little coding about what it means to do coding in a real job. Yeah, and if you have more time, you could extend it with the volunteer. But I would recommend doing both.
Somebody says, can you put the girls on the whiteboard behind you? I'll start writing some of those.
Okay.
I can write them down.
So this is Kate. She's been hiding off camera, and she's going to write some URLs for us. Do you think? Okay, so I asked my students. Okay, I'm in a one-to-one computing and running our site 612. Right, one lower. They can't see that. Okay, slightly lower. Okay.
Santino's asked a question about basically our district point person has shared section codes for each tutorial, and how will I be able to track how many of our students are logged in and using it, or will he be the only one? Santino, there's a hard way for you to also track it, but it's not easy enough to bother. I would say the short answer is the district point person will be the only one, but not to really bother with it. The goal of the hour of code is as much celebratory. We don't want this to feel like standardized test taking and those types of processes in school. It should be 90% fun and 10%, the prep time and that kind of stuff.
So I see a question here saying, or not really a question, a comment saying that somebody asked their students to create accounts so that they could, students could keep working after school. They can give them extra credit and monitor their progress outside of the classroom. If you do want to monitor your students' progress beyond the classroom, that is a good reason to have accounts. And again, if you're going to do that, I'd start by creating a teacher account and then putting the students in from there. If you're just doing it during the hour of code in your classroom, it's easier not to bother with accounts. What if we don't have any? Okay. What if we don't have any schools that teach people how to code? I don't have that. Okay, so in your community, somebody was saying they don't have any schools that teach people how to code. And I don't know if you're asking that because you're asking about volunteers, or you're just looking for how to run. I'm not sure where this question is going. Is it about how to?
The question is, what if schools nearby you don't have computer science? In general, that's the problem we're trying to solve.
Yeah.
We believe the solution for this isn't to have special coding schools or camps, but to have regular school teach computer science as part of regular school curriculum. And the best way to get that started is for the school to at least try doing it for 1 hour. But Ron, what I would suggest, if you go to Code.org, if you go to Code.org/promote, which
we can also, I just want to make a note, all of these links are in our showcase sidebar, so you should see in your Google Hangouts that there's a Q&A and there's a showcase, and showcases we've been linking to things, so you can use that to hop onto it directly.
But anyway, at Code.org/promote, or if you sign the petition at Code.org, it'll take you to that page. There's a letter that we recommend sending to your local school to ask your school to support computer science. So if you don't know of schools in your area that teach to code, if you go to where the Hour of Code tutorials are, there's a bunch of tabs, and there's one of those tabs is basically find a local school, and it offers a search for all the schools nearby. Oftentimes there are schools that you don't actually know about that do offer computer science.
And there was one, it just scrolled off, somebody was asking, if your students don't have accounts and you're doing it over 2 days, will their work be saved until they come back the next day? And this depends on, in general, no, because they don't have accounts, but it depends on what tutorial you're using, or which, on which site, whether or not they can come back and start where they left off, even though their progress wasn't saved. So on our tutorials, if you get to, let's say there was a 20 puzzle progression and your student got through puzzle 8 on day 1, they can come back and start on puzzle 9, even though it didn't save all of their progress from puzzle 8. If they remember they're on puzzle 9, they can come right back in and jump in on puzzle 9. So you still, even if you're doing that, you still don't need to create accounts. If you do want to create accounts, it will obviously save their progress, and they'll be able to start on puzzle 9 and see all of their progress up to puzzle 8. Some of the other tutorials also let you jump in wherever you're going. A lot of them are in sequence, so if you get halfway through, then you can't come in the next day and continue. But another thing to think about is if you're doing this for 2 days, you can also do 2 different tutorials. Like, the students don't need to continue where they left off. They can also start a different tutorial the next day and get a different experience, if that's simpler for you.
There's a question from Kimberly. Oops. No, I actually answered that one.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
Okay.
Kimberly said, my students all receive their own laptops this year. Can they keep going with these tutorials? Thank you, Kimberly, first of all, but of course they can. The first year when we launched the Hour of Code, the #1 support question we got during the week was, will all of this stuff still be available after the weekends? And yeah, we keep our tutorials around year-round. And Code.org's 1-hour tutorials are extremely popular. If you click a few links deeper into our site to go to Code Studio, which is, I think, written up there, studio.code.org. There's 100 hours worth of tutorials and curriculum that you can use. So we'd love for your students to go beyond just the first hour, whether they finish their math lessons early or whatnot. So don't limit yourself just to 1-hour tutorials. The tutorials at studio.code.org are full-on courses that can go for 10 weeks or longer.
Yes, scroll down and see some of the more questions we missed. Okay. Okay.
Somebody there said my school district insists on tracking progress. That's why we're setting up accounts. I actually want to mention a point on this, which is that we're not against you setting up student accounts or tracking progress. We just want to make sure you don't feel like we're requiring it. We allow the hour of code to happen without sign up to make it as easy as possible. And we also support sign up to let you track progress. But don't feel that Code.org is insisting that you sign up.
Okay, so there's another question about signing up events. Somebody said they signed up their event as a special event, but it doesn't show up on the map, even though I received a confirmation letter. Is my event still registered? So there's two questions we get a lot on that. One of them I was talking about earlier, which is people signed up their event, but it's not showing up on the map. That's because we have way more events this year than we were expecting, and they can't all show up on the map.
So the map broke.
Yes, the map broke. The map broke. But if you signed up and you got a confirmation letter, yes, we absolutely know you're doing your event. We're excited about it, and it's counted in the total number of events, which is close to 170,000 when I looked earlier today.
No, it broke 170,000.
What?
It broke 170,000.
Oh, it broke 100. Okay, we're above 170,000 now. Crazy. Then a second question is about a special event. So for the special events, we wanted to highlight some exciting events around the world that are going on. We've had thousands and thousands of those as well. We can't put them all on the map and still read the map. So we've got it. We've registered it. The ones that are showing up in orange, we just looked through them and picked some that we thought were exciting to highlight, and we're obviously not highlighting all of them. But if you did submit it and you're doing a special event, we're excited about that, and we've got that registered. So thank you for doing that.
This is a great question. Ron, I'm a teen and would really like to start a community of coding where teens can come and learn how to code. Any suggestions on how to start this kind of community? I have 2 ideas of websites you can go to that basically give you ideas on this kind of thing. One is Coder Dojo, and the other is Code Club. Now, neither of those are designed for teens starting a community. Those are really designed for an adult who wants to start a coding community or a coding club. But all the resources they talk about, are relevant, even if you're not an adult. But the other thing I would say, no matter what age you are, is just get creative. Starting a community, it's not like there's a rule book for how to start a community. And the best things just start with people coming up with their ideas and trying one thing and seeing what works. Everything we're doing at Code.org, we're not following a playbook that was given to us. This whole thing started by just thinking that it would be great to do this. So get creative and come up with your own ideas.
This one will be highlighting on social media.
Yes, Santino, who's asking, will our website showcase any classrooms or schools that participate? The way we're going to be doing that is more on our social media rather than on our website, simply because we want to be able to highlight lots and lots of things, and the time it takes to update the website, it will get in the way of the problem that somebody else asked about making sure the website is up throughout the week. We don't want to mess with the website at all throughout the week. So the places we'll update it will be on Twitter and on Facebook.
But yeah, and I mentioned this before, but the way to share that is to share, if you could share it on social media and hashtag Hour of Code, then we will see it and we can share and reshare, and that's a great way for you also to share with all the other teachers out there. So.
Between hashtag Hour of Code and then mentioning Code.org, those 2 things are the way that we'll see it, and we'll be retweeting all the best things we see. There's a question about planning an event in a library setting and how to promote it within your area. And you want this is Alan Hood's question. and how do I get the maximum number of kids to show up? The thing I'd say mainly is get creative in terms of the different avenues that are specific to where you live. For sure, you should use social media. And then the next thing I would think about is how do you reach parents within your community, whether that's at a grocery store or at a PTA at the local school or things like that. Any of those are great options.
It's a great question about how to find more volunteers.
Volunteer. It looks like she's already committed to another school. Anyway, to expand search volunteers outside the Decatur, Georgia area. Yeah, so again, we have a lot of volunteers. We have thousands of volunteers right now, still have not been contacted. Unfortunately, they're not spread out geographically. They tend to be clustered. So there are two things to do. One is on the website, you can increase the radius that you're looking for. So on that website where we've got volunteers, it defaults to, I think, ones with, you know, the 5 that are sort of closest to you. But if you're not finding, if they're not writing back or if they're already busy, just go ahead and expand it out. Look for 10 miles out, 15 miles out. And if there aren't any in your area, there are a lot of volunteers who check the box saying that they want to Skype into a classroom or connect remotely. They also might want to, you know, if you just need some help talking to somebody before the hour of code about anything technical that you're having questions about, they might be able to help you with that too. So I'd encourage you just to do a search in a different area, you know, do a search in, you know, San Francisco for somebody who'll remote into Georgia, because there's a lot of people in San Francisco in the database right now. So,
Question easy to answer, Hadi.
I'm looking for system administration for moving kids from class to class. So that's another thing we're working on right now. You can select it. Oh, okay. So another question we're getting is about moving kids from one class to another. This is also something that you don't need to do for the hour of code, but if you want to do it for, you know, because you're doing larger classes or because you're trying to, like any of the reasons, and a bunch of reasons people were tracking data outside of class and you have kids already in a class. There are a couple of different ways to do this. One is, you know, if you don't need the data from the students from last year, I mean, we don't keep a lot of data on the students. It's just their progress on Code Studio. So if you just want, you know, to enter them in a new class because you're doing a new class, it's fine to let that data go and just copy and paste a new set of names into the teacher setup for a classroom and reset up your classroom for the next year. If you do want to move the kids from one class to another, that is something we're working on making easier right now, but right now you can do it by having the students enter the course code for the new course that they're entering, and that'll move them into that new class.
This is kind of a scary question. Nee is saying my team and I, we're all high school students, will be hosting the event together in our community. Do we all get the thank you gifts, or is it one per event? The unfortunate answer, it is only one per event. And I also would say that similar to the posters, I'm a little bit worried about running out of the thank you gifts. So, you know, whether it's Microsoft with the Windows codes, Apple with the iTunes codes, or Amazon with their gift codes have all been very generous to give us a limited number of these to give out. And I think we already have more people signed up for events than we have gift codes to give out, although not everybody actually expects to redeem them or get them. But they end up being one per classroom only, and we are going to run out, unfortunately.
Yeah, and in terms of, I think your question was, how does she redeem it? After the hour of code, we'll send out a survey that you can tell us about the hour of code, and then after that, we'll give you the information on how to redeem the gift code.
Nadia asks, is there something that's streaming online or via social media that people can see everybody across the globe who's enjoying coding during the same hour? We're looking to see if we can set up something like that, not on our own websites, just because we don't want to mess with our own websites. And I'm not sure we'll have something. If we do, we'll send email about it literally Monday morning.
Do you want to pitch the tech chats?
Yeah, there's two other things I would say. Just looking at the map on Code.org is pretty fun. If you visit that map and then zoom in and then look around the entire country and then into the entire world, the number of places going to really weird places that are doing the hour of code is just a really fun thing to do. And it's fun to do with students. And that's how they'll see people that are doing this throughout the week rather than during the hour. The second is we'll have a number of these celebrity tech chats, you know, people who are not necessarily celebrities, but influentials. Like, you know, if you have teenagers that are into BuzzFeed, the head of data science for BuzzFeed, who basically, she actually went to college with me, but she's a computer scientist and uses data analysis to decide what headlines to promote on BuzzFeed. she's one person, or the founder of Instagram, Kevin Systrom, if you know, again, kids love Instagram. They're going to be hosting these tech chats with a handful of lucky classrooms like this Google Hangout. Anybody who wants to can tune into those, and that's another fun way for the classroom to feel like they're part of something overall.
There's also, in that inspirational video list, which I one of those behind me, I think it's, we'll add it to the list of, yeah, it's on, you'll see the inspirational video. So one of those inspirational videos is sort of about the momentum of Hour of Code, and it shows people all over the world doing the Hour of Code, and playing that as part of, you know, either the beginning or end of Hour of Code is a great way to give your kids the sense that, your students a sense that they're part of something broader and that it's all around the world.
All right, Kate, this question has been +1 3 times. People want to know, are you single?
Recently, yes. We had a question, can you do the Hour of Code before or after Computer Science Education Week, if you have exams that week?
I don't know what the question is, but absolutely. You know, we make it a, you know, we try to get people to choose Computer Science Education Week as the time to do the Hour of Code, just to get this sense of international participation in a huge movement. But you know, you can do the Hour of Code anytime you want. And in fact, you know, in the last year, the last 12 months, there was roughly 40 million people who did the Hour of Code just during Computer Science Education Week, and roughly another 40 million who did it throughout the entire school year since the end of December all the way until now. So, you know, any time is good to try computer science. Our real hope is after you try 1 hour of coding that you go beyond that. The goal of an hour of code isn't, you know, that kids are going to become computer scientists or software engineers in 1 hour. You know, it's not that they need to take 1,000 hours or a whole, you know, lifetime of coding, but you know, a year-long computer science course is something that every student should have at least the option to learn. And those of you who are in elementary school teachers or middle school teachers, you can integrate a short 20-hour course as a module, and we offer many great 20-hour courses for different age ranges, and we highly recommend looking into offering those throughout the school year. Do you want to take this one, Alice?
Sure. I have heard about inviting local politicians, etc. What success have you had with schools doing this? What about media outlets? Yeah, absolutely. We've had governors, we've had senators, we've had mayors, we've had everything from, you know, the local guy just in your district to the governor of the whole state. We've had multiple this year who are going to Hours of Code. I think it's something that a lot of politicians really enjoy doing. It's a great opportunity for them to show that they are, you know, into technology, into students, into the future. But it's also a good opportunity for you to get them to see what it means for your state to support computer science. And you don't know unless you ask. So
yeah, I would say this pretty strongly on this particular thing, because people have asked, how does Code.org have so many celebrities involved in it, or so many politicians, or how did we get the president to write a line of JavaScript, etc. There's no rule book for this, and there's no like special magic wand to get people to say yes. It just has to do with asking, and asking the right way, and trying to find a way to sort of pull on people's individual heartstrings. So, you know, if you're doing an hour of code with your school, especially if the whole school is doing it, you know, arrange a student assembly and then send a note, whether it's to a politician or to the head of a local business or something. It is not a hard ask to ask a politician to come speak at a school for something like this, especially if you send a photo of the president or governors who have done it. You know, last year the Prime Minister of the UK did it. There's so many people who have participated in this. I think in general the average politician would love to engage in something like this. Just be brave, and if you get a no answer, go to the next politician. There's plenty of politicians. And
in terms of media, I mean, they reinforce each other, right? So if you can ask the media if they come, probably makes the politician more likely to show up. And if the politician's there, the media is more likely to show up. So I would just say go ahead and ask. It doesn't hurt to ask, and it's a lot of fun for the students if they can get somebody to show up like that. So, you know, one thing to do would be, you know, organize your event, invite a local volunteer to come, that we have somebody to speak, or, you know, plan to play a video, plan a little, you know, assembly. And if you can get the politician there, that's great. And it's extra fun. And if they're not there, you'll still have a great time, and it'll be great for your students. But go for it.
And the link we wrote below the hashtag hourofcode.com/promote. That takes you to our promote and our resources page, where we have sample letters you can send to politicians or media if you're not quite sure what to write.
Yeah.
All right, I think we're short on remaining questions. They seem mostly repetitive. I'll just say a
We're
few.
also, we have 3 minutes, so yeah,
Okay.
go ahead. Yeah, you should do the closing.
I'll just say some closing words,
Yeah.
just for people who missed the initial words we said. First of all, thank you everybody for joining in. This is going to be an amazing week next week. You know, whether you have a good time or a great time, please share how it goes on social media or in your neighborhood or community. You know, the strength of the Hour of Code comes from teachers, educators deciding as a community that we want computer science to be something that our children, that our students get to participate in. And that community grows when you spread the word about it, whether it's on Twitter, Facebook, or just, you know, word of mouth. Printing the certificates for the kids to take home for their parents to see is another huge deal. And that if you're not sure how to do that, the lesson plans on the website talk about that, and that may be a URL worth running. Code.org/certificates is how you print the certificates for the students to get home. I think we're going to get somewhere between 50 million and 100 million students to do the Hour of Code in 1 week this year, which is amazing. The low end of that 50 million is the full student population of the United States. The high end of that is the student population of the US and Europe combined. Somewhere between those two is the range of what we're going to hit, which is just amazing, and it's thanks to everybody in the educator community in the entire world that is participating in this campaign. And like we've said before, the goal of the Hour of Code is to have fun, and for you yourself as educators and your students to gain the confidence that computer science is a field that any student can learn, and to really go actually beyond the first hour to try 10 hours or 20 hours or even a full 4-year-long course, whether it's for your students to try it or for your school to teach it. I think that's about it. So thank you so much.
Great. Thank you. Good luck. We're excited that you're doing this.